We have a shocking Oilers update out of Edmonton this morning as we get set for the Stanley Cup final, which doesn't start for another couple of days. Yes, lots of breakdowns here on the channel leading up to the Stanley Cup final. The Oilers hitting the ice this morning for a morning skate. All that and more today. But we are on the road to 3,300 subscribers, while we are also on the road to 4,000. So help us get there quicker by hitting that button down below for any and all Oiler news on the road to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, twice in a row, folks. This does not happen often, so soak it in while it is happening. But for the Oilers, I mean, no days off as they get set to take on the Florida Panthers in another installment of the Stanley Cup final. There you can see there both teams dispatching their conference final opponent each in 5 games. They're doing it differently. The Panthers almost sweeping the Carolina Hurricanes yet again. Meanwhile, the Oilers with a gentleman's sweep there in Game 1, Wednesday, June 4th at Rogers Place. Yes, the Oilers do have home ice advantage this time, which should be helpful in their favor. 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain there on Hockey Night in Canada. And Kris Knoblauch, he realizes, there's still some more work to be done. The top of the mountain is very close yet so far away. Says we should definitely be proud of what we accomplished. We should feel happy about what's gone on, and obviously what's on our mind hasn't just been to be the best team out of the West. All summer we weren't thinking about that. We were thinking about the ultimate prize, which was Lord Stanley's mug, and everyone, myself, was thinking about that all summer long. I mean, to go through another tumultuous 82-game regular season there. It was a jaunt, it was a ride, it was a struggle, but nonetheless, we got to where we wanted to be yet again there. And the Oilers, they're focusing on the work that's ahead of them as they're on the ice for practice ahead of the Stanley Cup final. And the good thing for that is the Oilers don't have to travel to Fort Lauderdale there or Sunrise, wherever the Florida Panthers play for Game 1, as they can stay right home and make the Florida Panthers come to them for Game 1. So lots of exciting times ahead here for the Oilers. Home ice for the Cup final, that is always fantastic there. And ever since he received a hit from Alex Petrovic there in the Western Conference final against the Dallas Stars, Connor Brown is on the ice this morning for the Oilers practice. So lots of good news ahead. I mean, he had the head issues there with the concussion protocols. You can probably imagine that's why he was pulled, and the foot problems back in the Vegas series in Game 5 when he took a shot off the foot. But Connor Brown seems to be rip-roaring and ready to go for Game 1, and he realizes the difference between, last year and this year. Last year, when we punched our ticket, there were only a few guys who had been there before. There's that big shock factor. This year, we understood what it took, given our experience last year. And from Tony Barr here, Connor Brown says he'll be ready for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final, which is always huge to have that experience and to have that penalty kill persona that Connor Brown does provide on the Oilers special teams there. I mean, the penalty kill, it's been up and down all playoff long, but to have somebody that's familiar with that system there, always fantastic there. I mean, Connor Brown, it's hard to hate the guy. I mean, he's such a fireball on the ice, willing to go into all of the dirty areas there. You can see from Tony Barr here the lines and pairings from Sunday practice, which seem to be the same there from Game 5 against Dallas. Nugent-Hopkins, McDavid, and Corey Perry there playing in his millionth Stanley Cup final, but yet only has the one cup win with Anaheim in 2007. So hopefully he can add that one to his never-ending trophy case with his Olympic gold medals and everything else that is to be won in hockey there. With Evander Kane, Leon Draisaitl in Kasperi Kapanen, Jeff Skinner, Adam Henrique, and Trent Frederick, and then Vasily Podkolzin, Mattias Janmark in Victor Arvidsson, and Connor Brown being one of the extra forwards, the fifth line, if you will, with Derek Ryan and Max Jones. It'll be interesting to see when Connor Brown comes in, who is coming out there. My guess is probably Jeff Skinner. I mean, Jeff Skinner was the last forward to be inserted. He'll probably be the first guy out there, despite scoring in Game 5 against Dallas. It just seems to be something with Kris Knoblauch that, unless he absolutely has to, he will not play Jeff Skinner. So it's probably going to be Connor Brown slotting in where Jeff Skinner is there. And on the back end, again, seems to be the exact same there. Mattias Ekholm in Evan Bouchard with Darnell Nurse and Brett Kulak playing on his offside. Had a bit of a shaky first period against Dallas in Game 5 there, but seemed to warm up as the game went along with Jake Wallman in John Klingberg, with Troy Stecher and Ty Emberson as the extra two defensemen. Stuart Skinner, who's been red hot throughout that Dallas series, sure had, again, much like Kulak, had a bit of a shaky Game 5 there, but I mean, when you get the win, that's all that matters there. And of course, this Oiler decor, much better compared to last year. I mean, in a bit, I'll pull up the 2024 Oiler Game 1 lines heading into that first game against Florida, and the decor, it's just substantially better this year. So much more puck-moving defensemen and, players that can sort of get around how hard Florida comes at you fast, and that is what you need to defeat the Florida forecheck, is puck-moving defensemen. And Stan Bowman, Jeff Jackson, and the rest of the Oilers management figured out what the Oilers needed, and that is what brought them this success to this point there. But some concerning news for the most part. From TSN's Ryan Rashagi said McDavid had a word with training staff in left practice early today, but the rest of the group is still out there. And then he followed up, Brendan Escott followed that up with Kris Knoblauch says McDavid will be ready for Game 1 after he left practice early today, saying no issues. So a bit of a smokescreen there. I don't know if that's Connor McDavid, just, taking it easy today, which is weird because, normally he's, the first guy on, last guy off, along with Vasily Podkolzin, but he's just taking it easy heading into the Stanley Cup final there. He mentioned how draining it was last year, so this year, getting ready as he goes along here, not going full throttle to begin this series, but we're just warming up into, and that is what you need from your captain, sort of setting the pace for everybody else. As I think we were better off for going through last year, it's really driven us this year. This run has felt different than last year. It's felt very normal. It hasn't been as emotional. We haven't had the highs and we haven't had the lows, and that puts us in a good position. Those games can be emotionally draining. We're not draining, and see, from all three handshakes and after the handshakes there with the Oilers, not a lot of celebrating. I mean, sure, handshakes aplenty there and high fives aplenty, but nothing too extravagant there. They knew the job was not done. Get through all the celebrating and then head back to the dressing room and get prepared for the next series there. And then, of course, you compare that to last year after Game 6 against Dallas, and I hate to say it, but they kind of acted like they did win the Stanley Cup in front of their home crowd there. But this year, the Oilers are locked in on what they need to do the most, and that is just be prepared and be, again, mentally prepared to take on the very dirty Florida Panthers. We've seen what they've done all playoff long there, and it's not going to get any different starting on Wednesday night there. And you can see just the culture shock from last year compared to this year, and hopefully the Oilers won't score only one goal through 2 games. They're giving up 7 in that process there, but the Bobrovsky was on something in those first 2 games, so they need to get to Bobrovsky early and often. I mean, they've solved all 3 goalies that they faced so far in this run with, Darcy Kemper with the LA Kings, Aiden Hill with the Vegas Golden Knights, the boogeyman from 2023 that haunted Edmonton until Edmonton haunted him back by getting in his grill, and then lastly here, Jake Ottinger with Stuart Skinner outplaying Jake Ottinger for the 2nd straight year in a row. There you can see, comparing that to last year, like I mentioned, the decor. The only thing that stayed the same is Ekholm and Bouchard. You can see there, Nurse Cece was a tire fire, and then Philip Broberg and Brett Kulak there. So I, trust this year's team compared to last year's. And I mean, even the forward core is a lot different there. I mean, that bottom 6 with, Fogle, McLeod, and Perry, and then Yamark, Henrique, in Brown there. I'm sure there's some players from last year that I'd love on this team. I mean, Dylan Holloway, for example. But this team is just, the 2025 team, I should say, deeper, more prepared, and that is exactly what you need. And from a guy like Corey Perry, who's been to a lot of Cup finals, he's excited, obviously, but he said, this is why you played throughout the whole playoffs. This is what we do. These are things you dream about. Some guys in here haven't been there. Some guys in here know the feeling, and we said last year, right after Game 7, that we'd be back. We'll see what we can do. And this Oilers team, again, just locked on. The mental preparation is, half the battle, but actually playing the game is the other half there. But that is it for today's video. Throughout the week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we will have lots of series preview. I mean, no shortage of series previews to go along here between the Oilers and Panthers. You compare the history, comparing these 2 teams this year, and everything and anything in between. But stay tuned to Oilers Digest for any and all Oiler news. And thank you very much for the support over the last few weeks here. Love the comments, love the amount of likes on the videos, and just all the eyes. So again, thank you very much. In the subscriptions, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that down below. But folks, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. The Memorial Cup final is on later today, and we have a couple Oiler prospects in there, Sam O'Reilly and William Nichols. So if you don't have anything to do tonight, I mean, watch some future Oilers cook tonight as they play the Medicine Hat Tigers in Gavin McKenna in the Memorial Cup final. But that is it, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. I'm Matt.